Minato is a worthless perv who failed in life until he met a busty hottie who introduced him to the culling game. Upon locking lips, he was able to make her his own, and this gave him the idea to go around and increase his harem by kissing several beautiful ladies with sweet racks. Yes, this show is filled with melons of all types and sizes, a paradise for the hopeful adventurer.
But good morning.
In a secure government facility, shots were being fired as the fearless swordswoman walked towards them, feeling like prime Oda Nobunaga. The soldiers were paralyzed in fear, dazzled by her incredible athleticism. She rescued the hostage and went outside, only to witness a massacre committed by her partner, another demonic savage. We are then fast-forwarded to 2020, where everyone is enjoying their time on Earth, while Minato failed his entrance exam and called his mother to complain. As he was walking, the screen showed a billionaire who bought up half the city and a ninja who was running around town. Minato was startled to witness a flying hottie who came crashing like Santa's presents on Christmas Eve. The physically endowed Musubi, who saved him from an attack by the two ninja cuties. It was a battle of the sexes and Musubi ran off with our boy. They went back home and started clapping cheeks and dripping gooey creams. Musubi was the polite, subservient waifu who was ready to satisfy his bodily needs with some good old loving. Afterward, Minato started panicking and experienced a flashback of the time she dragged him away. She kept apologizing for dragging him into her mess, but our boy was only focused on her milk jugs and kept picturing her in all sorts of naughty ways. Musubi didn't hold back either and ended up fainting out of exhaustion. Since bro was a gentleman, he took her back home and started feeding her before breeding her. Classic Hansel and Gretel moves, only this time, it wasn't the sin of gluttony, it was the sin of lust. Since she didn't have anywhere to go, he offered her to stay with him, and our girl didn't hesitate to initiate physical touch and asked him to become an ashikabi. That's code for clapping partner, by the way. As she pulled in his hands closer to her beating chest, our boy freaked out and ran outside. His landlord came by to question him about his friend, since he wasn't going to tolerate others crashing at his apartment besides him. Quite the stingy individual, wouldn't you say? Musubi came out looking all perky and shy and had our protagonist talking about her swollen melons. He took her to the cafe and spent a fortune on her, completely wiping him out. He had to run to the ATM real quick and ran into the two sexy ninjas, who were excited for round 2 with the busty balloons. They struck her down and had her cornered. She got up and tried fighting them, but Minato came to her aid and acted real tough. Wow, would you look at those gigantic institutions? Run, my boy, run. You better save her before she turns into mincemeat. She was turned on by his bravery, as her body was getting hotter by the second. She was in her heat and wanted to take him right then and there. The twins interrupted their wholesome moment, however. Musubi leaned in for the kiss and initiated the sacred ritual, growing wings and transforming into a heavenly angel. They tried getting rid of Minato, but our girl started threatening them and showed them the real power of an evolved specimen. That kiss gave her the courage of Hercules and turned her into prime Supergirl. Twins were scolded by their boss, Homura, who gave off Kakashi-sensei vibes. I bet she has a sharing-in of her own. What a fierce lady. I like her already. The twins talked about some battle while Minato gave his new girl a coat and went back home to talk to his sister. He asked her to send over some clothes and she got the wrong idea, assuming he was a perv. However, his shirt was a tad bit too small and tight for Musubi, which was a huge W in my opinion. His TV turned on and Musubi called the man her professor. He was the eccentric billionaire Hiroto. Yeah, the one you saw on the screen earlier. He started informing him of the Sekirei plan and the battle of sexy witches looking to become the next superpower of heaven. You heard that right. These Sekirei chose random civilians they consider worthy and turned them into an ashikabi. They were then automatically added to the culling game where winner takes everything. The MB came by at the door and handed him a package. It was brand new clothes for Musubi, who was excited to fight with him and ascend the higher heavens. Unfortunately, the landlord came by and kicked them out. They tried looking for another place to crash, but failed to convince anyone since he had no job or cash. It was raining and Minato felt depressed. Sure, he had a hot girl to bang, but still, his life was a mess since he failed school, couldn't secure a career, and had nothing to do all day. However, Musubi didn't care and leaned in for a kiss, ready to sacrifice her life for him. When will I find someone as loyal and beautiful as her? Hold up, did they really ascend the skies? This girl was something else. Better hold her tight, my friend, 'cause I'm coming after her. The view was breathtaking, and a woman by the name Kazehana was eavesdropping on Minato and Musubi, who came down crashing into a tree. They ran into another innocent bystander while Musubi's clothes keep on ripping apart due to her enormous planets. That is, they brought them inside and tried treating their wounds. Wait a minute, is that Homura without a mask? Seems a lot similar from this angle. Musubi came back after borrowing a kimono, which was also too tight for her endowed body. But hey, you don't see me or Minato complaining. The owner of the house was known as Mia and introduced herself to them. She then informed them of her husband and how he passed away. Alas, the poor widow was all on her own. This would be the ideal opportunity for Minato to increase his harem, but our boy was too much of a wimp. They sat down to eat dinner together, but were interrupted by another gorgeous busty Uzum. Mia explained how this was a boarding house and people from all over were welcome to stay. Sort of like an inn in a way. They were looking for new tenants and Minato decided to grovel at their feet. Mia accepted him with open arms and gave our girl Musubi the chills. The shady Homura went outside to receive a phone call while Musubi was taking a shower. Minato decided to call his mother and surprise her with the new place, but she cut his allowance in half and hanged up the phone, leaving him in the dust. Fortunately for him, Musubi came out looking like a bombshell and wanted another around his fleshy rod. Elsewhere, a creepy figure approached a Sekirei and offered to become her ashikabi. The following day, his sister Yukari came by to visit and brought him the clothes he asked for. She also took the opportunity to announce her college acceptance and rub it in while she can. Ouch, that ought to hurt. Musubi walked in and gave her the wrong idea, almost blurting out the truth and ruining their plans. They totally gave couple vibes, and Yukari started teasing him about her newfound beauty. Those clothes did bring out the best in her. Yukari bid her farewell in a pervy way and had Minato talking about his past. Her strength was indomitable, and she started explaining how different Sekirei possessed unique abilities. The twins possessed lightning while she was gifted with super strength. They walked into their new house with Mia cordially welcoming them like the gentle hostess she was. Musubi was alone in the room with him and tried to raise his testosterone levels. Despite her best efforts, our boy wanted to take things slowly. In the meantime, Homura was about to leave early and kissed Mia's hand like a true gentleman. Wait a minute, why was Musubi flirting in public? She even gave our boy the Sanji treatment. After offering to wash his back, he ended up running for dear life while she went into the bath alone. Our boy kept on reminiscing the incident of the crash and ran into a tree elf. Meanwhile, Musubi and Uzumi were hitting it off, and that's when she saw her Sekirei mark and started attacking her out of nowhere. When did our girl Musubi turn into an absolute monster? Couldn't she at least get some clothes first? Uzum hugged her ashikabi and triggered her envy. Fortunately, Mia came to scold them both and gave off demonic vibes. Later that night, another mommy milkers, Tsukiyomi, let's call her Umi, was ambushed by Homura. The flat chest against the melons of Mars. I have my money on the mommy. Elsewhere, Minato found himself in a scared forest with a crying damsel, Kusano. She must be an elf or something. Since she was in danger, she asked him to save her, but Musubi ended up waking him from the nightmare. Elsewhere, it seems Kusano was stuck in some sort of mirror dimension or dream world. Homura was there with her trying to ease her pain when another busty babe, Yomi, came by to attack them. So many hotties in this show, I'm starting to lose count honestly. They were after Kusano, who went berserk and unleashed monstrous vines upon them. The scene shifted to Musubi and Minato after a successful breeding session in bed. Our boy was then prompted to look outside, where Maya was demonstrating her remarkable swordsmanship. Musubi couldn't believe her eyes since she idolized strong warriors and always wanted to be like them. Yeah, despite her enormous figure, she's still a little girl deep inside. After challenging her to a fight, Uzum held back our boy and asked him to watch since Maya was a capable sensei. The way she was moving reminded me a lot of Anohana from Bleach. Soon after, Minato went to work and thanked the heavens Mia cooked him a scrumptious meal. However, another ravenous worker, Kaio, couldn't stop drooling at his meal. This guy was a beast and tried to chat like a gentleman until the twins came by to knock some senses into him. I wonder what he could have done to them. The twins realized Minato was their enemy, but didn't want to make a fuss since he was a legit ashikabi, similar to Kaio, who was theirs. Elsewhere, Homura was on the phone call when she was debriefed of another ashikabi's evolution. This news broke her down, but Homura wasn't the type to give up so easily. Meanwhile, Kaio was talking about the green girl when their boss told them to leave since the MBI were after the green girl. I'm guessing it was Kasano. Back at home, Musubi was feeling lonely and wanted some companionship, male companionship to be exact. Geez, this girl can't go a whole day without some love and affection, huh? Mia bid her farewell while the twins and Kaio attacked the MBA head-on. Musubi was growing worried and headed to the crash site while Minato was deep inside the forest, staring at the glowing figure of Kusano. She pointed at the direction she was hiding, but Kaio wouldn't let him get away that easily, since there was a huge bounty on her head. Homura, on the other hand, had to deal with the relentless Yomi, who refused to back down until she acquired her target. Since the green girl was top priority, the battle of ice and fire ensued, with another deranged Sekirei, Akitsu, in the mix. Homura considered her a discarded number, since every official Sekirei had a unique digit to them. Just then, Musubi interrupted the intense stare down and left them be while Kaio started teaching our boy about the details of the Sekirei showdown. Kissing was the primary mode of activation, since why not, might as well give the hot babes what they need, right? Kaio told him how Sekirei must choose their ashikabi on their own. However, it is also possible to force kiss them and turn them into your own servants. The harsh truth was dawning upon our boy as they got closer to the green girl, Kusano, who was caught by Yomi. The rest of the gang started running before Yomi sliced her up to bits. Minato decided to grope her from behind while the twins electrocuted them. Kusano met face to face with her savior and fell into his arms. Yomi tried chopping his head when his Sekirei came to the rescue. Oh wow, her strength was insane. Yomi almost caught her lacking until Musubi decided to fight back. Kaio had his eyes set on her melons, since her clothes were weaker than my internet connection. She needs a good tailor. Might I suggest brand names like Gucci? Despite being half naked, Musubi wasn't about to give up and launched at Yomi with the might of a lioness. Using her power, she deactivated her Sekirei mark and removed her of the burden. Wait a minute, were they able to do that? Meanwhile, the battle of ice and fire continued when a car drove by to save his damsel. Minato and Musubi went back home with Kusano on his shoulder. She considered him an older brother and looked up to him. Hold up, don't tell me he was going to make her a Sekirei. Don't do it, man. Oh snap, he actually relieved her stress. Soon after, another Homura lookalike, Shina, activated her Bankai near the sacred tree, while Homura met up with her busty eye-patched boss. Hey, the amount of hot babes in this show is absolutely ridiculous. They were talking about Kusano and how they should kidnap her, and for some reason, Hai seems to know Minato intimately. Any guesses on who she could be? Perhaps his aunt or a stalker who sent a detective to study his background. The next day, Musubi was excited to bid our boy farewell when they heard how the plants Kusano made were destroyed by the MBI. Our petite damsel saw them wither away and broke down into tears. She cried out a name, Shina, and continued crying like a little baby. Who was this Shina to her, I wonder? The mystery was killing me. Meanwhile, Minato was minding his own business at work when the boss informed him that Kaio quit the job. Musubi, on the other hand, went for another round with the Master Swordswoman and gave everyone a lovely performance. Minato returned home late and met Kaio chilling in the living room, like he owned the place. He was close friends with Mia's late husband, and nowadays, he only comes around to stuff his face and dwindle their pantry. Kusano was afraid to go in and ran away while Mia kept on threatening the big fella. The twins came by to cause a fuss and Minato took the opportunity to show his gratitude. However, they couldn't care less and blew him off, since they had a threesome appointment waiting for them at home. What a lucky chap! You know who else is lucky? Minato, who had 2 naked Sekirei in the bathtub just waiting to give him a back rub. Is it me, or do these two look like doppelgangers or twins? It was getting late, and Kusano went out to refresh herself. That's when she saw a ghostly figure and came back running. They looked all around the house, but couldn't find anything, however. After hearing her description, Mia realized it was someone she knew. Afterward, she grabbed some flowers and headed to a gravesite to visit her husband. Uzumi was willing to cook for them while Minato was left out of the party. It was cosplay time and he was simping harder than a Playboy nerd with a newly updated magazine. Uzumi left them alone to fend for themselves, and who knew Musubi knew how to cook. It was surprisingly delicious and elsewhere. Yukari was walking by when she ran into Shina. Another blonde hottie, Mitsuha, finally found him and was about to kidnap him the hard way. Yukari decided to protect him, unbeknownst of the Sekirei game or magical entities at work. Musubi, however, saw an image of a ghost and went into Minato's room trying to entice him to another round of the good loving. What's with anime protagonists and their reluctance to get things going? Here she is, a vulnerable woman willing to give her heart and soul to him, even jumping on top of him in begging to be loved. But alas, he is as dense as plywood mixed with concrete. She promised to make him hers, while the hacker girl looked on like a creepy perv. She must have had a crush on Minato or something. Musubi went out to get some items from the grocery when she was attacked by lasers from above. Minato was oblivious to this and went to take a bath when the hacker girl, Matsu, with a splendid rack came by, squeezing her jugs into him. Oh my, I'm in love. Could she be the most beautiful girl in the show so far? Musubi came back home with torn clothes as usual, scaring the life out of Mia. Our demonic hostess insisted she take a bath, while Matsu was shooting her shot with our boy. Not only was she extremely gorgeous, but she was the jealous type as well. She pulled out a gun and trapped Musubi in a trap. It was now time to clap his cheeks, until Mia decided to ruin the parade. Boo, what a party pooper. Things were just getting exciting up in here. Mia introduced her as a tenant and revealed her hidden door. No wonder. She must be the ghost Kusano saw. The extremely hot ghost, if I must say. After they got acquainted, Mia started threatening her if she pulls anything Sue's from here on out. Meanwhile, Mitsuha dropped in on Akitsu, who was rocking those double. It's like they never went out of fashion. Now, this show knows its cleavage work. Unfortunately, Homura had none, but she was still cute regardless. Akitsu launched the first attack with ice, while Mitsuha tried tying her up. However, she had the inner fire demon within her. Elsewhere, Shina was blushing like crazy and was begging for a kiss to mark him. Homura, on the other hand, was having a rough time, since her powers were too much to handle. That's when her boss, Sue, came around with her incredible water-breathing technique. These two were a match made in heaven, but argued like long-time couples. It seems Sue was on her heat and wanted to relieve the stress. You know who else was looking to clap some cheeks? You guessed it right, the creepy four-eyed pervert, Matsu. She gave him a warm kiss and transformed in with Sekirei on the spot. Oh wow, this guy is getting first base left and right. Meanwhile, the real villains of the show revealed themselves. Minato, the mad scientist who gave off Joker vibes. The following day, Minato woke up in heaven with Matsu and Musubi fighting over him. She sat down with the rest of them to eat and went outside to train some more. It seems Musubi still had a long way to go while Sue was terrorizing Minato in his dream. Does this man have Esper abilities or something? His sis, Yukari, sent him a text and our boy went out to discover the secrets of the Sekirei plan from Matsu, the genius hacker who had the tea on everything and everyone. She was the fanatic type who was obsessed with her work and her new man. After that kiss, she evolved into a real mature woman. He told her about Sue and how she kept on appearing in his dream. She pulled up her information and was terrified of her. Sekirei number 9, one of the most powerful Sekireis in the game. She was known as the Ashikabi killer, and Musubi came by to calm his nerves, promising to protect them at all costs. Matsu started searching for her location and told Musubi to go around town to help. It was showtime, ladies and gentlemen. For some reason, he took Kusano along with him, who is a powerhouse to say the least. Sue was feeling desperate in anticipation and met up with the twins. They wanted to eliminate all the Sekirei who didn't emerge with their Ashikabi, but this wasn't going to be an easy fight, since her water magic was on par with Katara. Minato ran into Kaio, who decided to help out. The twins dropped in and were being chased by Tsu, who landed on Minato and was brought to her knees. I knew it. She was in love with him, despite her hatred for Ashikabi, that is. This caused her to lash at him until Kusano came to his aid. Minato cooled her down and explained how he wanted to make her his Sekirei. This caused Sue's wrath to explode and left Minato in a pickle. However, he blurted out his fantasies of having her as his Sekirei. Let's face it, he just wants to increase his harem and taste the tenderness of her warm, squishy melons. Sue could no longer bear the insolence and was about to go all out until the nitrous and shining armor came through. Her emotions kept on getting the best of her until the twins had enough and called upon their hero, who held them tight and started smooching in public. This helped unlock their dormant potential and evolve their form. They called it empowering a Sekirei, and were about to unleash a lightning barrage capable of destroying a city. Matsu was scared for his life, while Musubi received a distress signal. Meanwhile, Minato decided to shelter her from the attack and started giving her the feels. Her waterbending ended up striking Kaio, who was livid and grabbed her like a Toys R Us doll. Wait a minute. Kaio is able to cancel abilities, yikes. This made him a monster. He was about to make him her Sekirei in front of Minato, who lost it, and challenged him to a fight. The twins ended up attacking him since he was about to betray them, while Tsu got closer to Minato and insisted he fulfill the promise he made. She welcomed his enthusiasm and gave him her heart, those two delightful headlights staring at him with the zeal and vigor of a lonely bride. She started groping him and leaned in for a kiss. Upon locking lips with him, her mark finally activated, and our boy successfully tamed her. Kusano came by alongside Musubi, who triggered the envy of the blonde. Matsu tried calling, and even Mia was growing worried in her own devious way. They came back home with Tsu clinching tightly and refusing to let go. She introduced herself as his wife, and all the Sekirei started fighter over him. Matsu chipped in with her striking bumper and looked on as Mia scolded the two hotties with her demonic aura. Minato was receiving a lecture from the innkeeper about the Sekirei plan and what he should do moving forward. This was bound to get exciting, and that's when Tsu had this growing suspicion of Homura, who was in disguise as a man named Kagari. Wait a minute, Homura is a man. No wonder, since every woman on the show is a busty mommy. Elsewhere, Yukari couldn't handle her excitement and never marked Shina as her Sekirei. Even after his explanation, she was reluctant to lock lips and kept on reminiscing in her bedroom. Why was she hesitant? Back at the inn, Tsu was upset to find out Matsu and Izum possessed a gorgeous rack capable of seducing Minato. Begs the question, where was Uzum's ashikabi? Tsu was not bothered and considered herself as the only real wife of Minato. Musubi took the opportunity to feed her husband, and the family dynamic was growing wild. Tsu went to the bathhouse while Minato was chatting with Kusano, who wanted to know who his favorite was. Musubi kept teasing Tsu while Minato informed her how he loved all of them equally. Well, this guy is certainly a menace. Also, what was Minato planning? A true menace of society right there. His laughter was contagious, even though his assistant, Takami, didn't approve of his sinister schemes to pit the Sekirei against one another in a global bloodbath. In a flashback, we saw young Hiroto and Takami treading the hills in search of a long-lost treasure. Sounds like they were searching for the One Piece. Also, why was Takami always pissed for some reason? They ran into a broken spaceship, which lit up upon entry and granted them access to a pod with a beautiful specimen inside. We were flashed back to the present, where our boy Minato was swimming in fine ladies and suffered from the usual morning rod. Matsu kept on picking fights with all of them, and Mia decided to give them all a taste of their own medicine. She summoned them all to the living room and assigned separate rooms. Kusano would live with Mia in her room. Musubi and Tsu were together, no questions asked, and Matsu would remain in hers. Soon after, Tsu was scolding Mia's announcement and hid from the rest while complaining like a spoiled brat. Elsewhere, another Sekirei walked by, Kara, who ran into Musubi and called out her name. Wait a minute, how did they know one another? She went inside and changed into her new clothes. They started talking about how Musubi evolved after defeating Yomi and becoming a successful warrior. Matsu went into hiding after finding out Kara was present. Could someone explain what was happening? The mystery in this show was getting ridiculous. Well, at least we know that Kara was number 4. Matsu was crying out in pain. However, Hiroto hijacked the broadcast station and announced the invasion of the city. The MBI was about to take charge, and Tsu stormed out of the room while Matsu went back to her room to show them a map of the city and how MB planned to keep them inside in order to have them fight to the death. It was Mortal Kombat all again, and Mia ran into Kara outside. Wait a minute, why did these two have bad blood between them? This went from exciting anticipation to annoying vagueness. Mia was feeling worried while Kara drove off with her ashikabi. Mitsuha and Akitsu ended up running into Kara, who was all over the place in one episode. Is she planning to run the gauntlet? Mitsuha launched at her, but learned the bitter price of messing with the black Sekirei. Akitsu ran away in horror as Minato felt overwhelmed by all this. Everything was happening so fast, and it was becoming increasingly difficult to keep up. They were all alone in the house, and Musubi decided to tell him about the promise she made with Kara. Long ago, before she ever met Minato, Kara and Musubi made a bet to survive long enough to fight one another for the prize. She then grabbed his hand and gave him a good feel of her squishy melons. Bro's fuse must have malfunctioned since he went pale and stood there like a statue. I wouldn't blame him though. Elsewhere, Tsu met up with Homura, who told her to prepare for the incoming battle, but the blondie was in a bad mood and jumped off. Sheena was dressed as a fine lady to disguise himself, while Tsu was forced to get into a maid outfit. It was time for cosplay, and Mia came back with some groceries and a mean attitude. She made them an offer they couldn't refuse and had them running like wild bulls. Elsewhere, a fierce battle was underway between two legendary Sekirei who knew how to throw hands. Wait, I must have spoken too soon, because the white-clad Nitrous ended up winning and gave Kazuhana goosebumps. The following day, MB closed off the streets and did a routine checkup when they ran into Haruka. He made a run for it, and that's when they ran into the blue Sekirei. A Grim Reaper clad in white hair, they decided to make a run for it with Homura looking on from above. Back at home, Musubi and Tsu were playing around while Minato was ogling them like a creepy basement perv. He kept on staring lecherously until Mia came by to announce dinner was served. He went to Matsu's room to call her, but was distracted by her thorough research. She had details on every Sekirei and showed him their stats to prepare for the upcoming battle. Something was worrying her while Musubi couldn't find Uzume anywhere. It seems she went to the hospital, and that's when Kusano decided to cosplay for our boy in hopes of winning his affection. After hearing Uzume made the costumes, Minato started asking personal questions and had Mia explaining her backstory. She had a tragic past and suffered a lot. Soon after, Musubi and Tsu came from the grocery looking pumped and ready to grab a bite. These two kept on arguing, and this bothered Minato a lot. Meanwhile, Uzume was praying for her ashikabi and held her hand tightly. The girl in question was called Chiho and was struck with a fatal illness that left her bead-ridden. Minato, on the other hand, was trying to give his duo some word of advice. Alas, they were too egotistic to listen. In fact, they were insulted when he considered they hide for the time being. He went back to his room, devastated, until Tsu barged in and tried picking a fight with him. She considered herself the strongest, and his words deeply hurt her emotions, since he had no hope in their abilities or power. After screaming in his face, she stormed off angrily, leaving him with an upset Musubi. She followed him from behind with a menacing look and ran into Uzume, who had blood on her jeans. Tsu was busy taking a bath, and Uzume decided to join them. These bath scenes are the best thing of the entire show. Uzume was feeling a tad bit lonely, it seems, since they all had their ashikabi by their side. Another ashikabi by the name Hayato was growing worried since his Sekirei, Mitsuha, was eliminated by the black Sekirei, Kara. This was a culling game after all, a free-for-all fight. Back at Yukari's place, she and Sheena were hitting it off, chatting like old-time buddies and touching base. Despite their growing bond, they still haven't kissed though. She started telling him of the time her brother saved her from the forest and how warm she felt. That was the feeling she wanted Sheena to experience, knowing someone out there is willing to protect him. The next day, Uzume went back to the hospital and met up with Four-Eyed Freak, who gave her a target to eliminate. Hold up, Uzume was working as an assassin, go figure. Meanwhile, Tsu and Musubi were ready to head into battle and finished their practice session before bidding Minato farewell. Haruka was running with the cute blondie Kuno, who tripped like the typical stereotype. The Sekirei, clad in white armor, showed up and announced the bounty on Kuno's head. Her figure was scrumptious to say the least, and that's when Kuno unleashed a sonic boom. Despite her fierce attack, it failed to defeat the white-clad until Tsu and Musubi showed up to rescue her. Wait a goddamn minute, was the white-clad Sekirei Uzume. Do my eyes deceive me? Kazehana showed up looking fine and perky, a drunkard by day or night, true to her form. Without a moment's hesitation, Tsu started attacking the white robe, haughty Uzume in disguise, as Kazuhana walked towards them. She then blocked Tsu's water attack. Would you look at her sweet rack? It seems Kazuhana had an issue with double-teaming a poor Sekirei, and Tsu decided to handle Uzume alone while Musubi shifted her attention to the blondie. After introducing herself alongside her twin planets, Kuno started feeling depressed. They refused to fight Musubi, while Tsu continued attacking relentlessly. Kazuhana decided to intervene and used her flower attack to thwart Tsu. She announced how she was number 3 and used her abilities to teleport away. Meanwhile, Musubi was nowhere to be seen, and Kazuhana took Uzume to the roof. It seems she was close friends with Mia and recognized Uzume despite her elaborate costume. Oh wow, Uzume was looking banging while Minato started helping out with house chores. Matsu came around and asked him not to work hard since he was now their leader. Even so, she ended up stripping in front of him since there was nobody home. Wait a minute, what was Homura doing here? What a party pooper. Matsu was burnt by her gently wrath, and that's when Homura asked for some medicine, since her abilities was causing her a lot of distress. It's hard to have a solid conversation with Matsu looking like that. Meanwhile, Minato was reliving his fantasy with Musubi crashing into him again. This girl has a habit of doing this. She dragged him away at top speed and took him to the apartment he used to live in. He then met up with Haruka and Kuno, who tried explaining their situation to them. Musubi asked him to help them while Tsu barged into Matsu's room worried and anxious. They called the assassin the Veiled Sekirei, and this gave Matsu the growing suspicion that it could be a Zoom. She started typing at top speed and almost found their location until Tsu got up and picked a fight with the gentle hacker. Kusano came around and almost destroyed the place until they succumbed to her might. Elsewhere, Minato and Haruka were bonding over their university failures and how they were applying to the same institution. These two were almost like soulmates. Aside of their Sekirei, they were similar in a lot of things. Haruka then told him how he wanted to leave the city, since Kuno can't fight for shit, and they just end up getting in the way. Elsewhere, Tsu and Matsu were taking a bath, looking fine like a plum cherry. Minato, on the other hand, was oblivious to the strict security conditions outside. MB had the whole place locked down, and it was practically a fortress. Escape was a pipe dream. Not even Prison Break could manage. Not only that, but there were other Sekirei willing to keep them in or eliminate them on the spot. Haruka started talking about how Minato didn't have to worry since he had strong allies, and this caused Kuno to feel neglected and weak. Afterward, Minato and Musubi were walking back home, while Tsu and Kusano waited by the door, ready to pounce at him on a moment's notice. Musubi didn't make things easier either, and later that night, Uzumi and Kazehana walked in drunk. The following day, our boy woke up next to Uzumi and Kazehana and was startled by all of this. They were hangover from all of this, and Kazehana was about to lock her lips until Tsu intervened, and Maya came to calm their nerves. I told you they were longtime friends. Uzumi's rack was insane, and in a flashback, Kazehana refused to fight with the White Veil since she was too weak. In a flash, she was behind her and offered to get drunk and forget about all of this. Back in the living room, Minato informed everyone about Kuno and had them all feeling sympathetic towards their situation. He brought the issue to Matsu, who started informing him how powerful MBI were. She even told him of the incident on the island and the pods they found. In each one was a powerful Sekirei, and that's how Hiroto became the president by using their power to dominate the city. Matsu warned him not to mess with the big bad wolf, especially as he is now, weak and fragile. Musubi came by to offer him some words of advice and started giving off hopeful damsel vibes. The scene shifted towards Kuno in the cold, remembering the time she was being chased by the twins. She tripped and using her sonic blast to escape, now left wondering what to do next. Haruka came by to give her some snacks and started rizzing her up. As expected, Kuno caved to his temptation and couldn't help but fall in love with him on the spot. She grabbed him by the scarf and refused to let go. In the present, Kazehana went to their apartment alongside Minato and Musubi, who watched her theatrics. It seems Kaio was there as well, and wasn't taking the situation lightly, since he knows how powerful the MBI were and offered to help them escape for a certain price. Minato gave him the phone, and Mia intimidated him from way back there. Musubi knew this would work, since everyone feared Maya. Everyone agreed to help Minato since he was their betrothed, however. Tsu was not keen on this plan. Matsu tried calming her down, but alas, Tsu was too hot-headed. Mia came around to have a gentle conversation and asked her to believe in them and Minato, since they had a plan. Mia kept on teasing her, since this was a sensitive matter for Tsu, who was madly in love with Minato and wanted to protect him no matter what. Meanwhile, Kaio was debriefing the gang of Mambi and the Sekirei they possessed. Yomi was one of them, and they owned even more powerful Sekirei who could prove a challenge. Back at the hospital, Uzumi felt something was off and went outside to grab a drink. Her handler came by and warned her to get the job done, or else. Kaio insisted on avoiding the Sekirei while Mia was giving Tusu a taste of real battle. The gap in their power levels was insane, and Mia proved once again why she was known as the Demon of the North. His plan was to cross through the waters and use the bridge to get away. It wasn't going to be easy, but Minato suggested using Matsu's hacking to get through. Even so, there were 3 Sekirei stationed at separate checkpoints, and Musubi volunteered to fight them. Kaio suggested doing this quick before things escalated beyond a certain point. The twins kept on giving Kuno a hard time. Poor girl, she was the innocent type. Kazahana was familiar with Kaio, it seems, who took charge of the entire operation. I wonder who her Ashikabi was. They went back to Matsu's hideout and asked her to hack the satellite. Kazahana called them to the living room and celebrated the escape plan like it was a walk in the park. Haruka tried convincing Minato to leave, but he walked out to speak with Tsu, who was banged up after fighting with Mia. She refused to help him with the escape plan, however. Minato was worried for Musubi and begged her to come along. Uzum came by and was not interested in partying, since her target was about to flee the city. Meanwhile, Minato held his lover close, right at the bosom, and she asked him if he wanted to make love. Unfortunately, Matsu interrupted, and had Tsu and Minato feeling like lost puppies. It was finally time to wake up, and Minato received a phone call from Yukari, who was still escorting Shina. Homura was still suffering from her injuries, and this bothered Maya, who was extremely worried. Musubi, on the other hand, kept on training while Tsu met up with Kusano and told her she was no longer his wife since she refused to help. Big words from a little girl. It was now finally time to head on with the mission. The higher-ups were given word of the escape plan and prepared to intercept their mission. The Black Sekirei sure had some juicy melons, though. Back in the city, Kazahana looked on as Homura came by to observe history in the making. Minato and the rest were ready to head out and waited for Matsu's signal. The army were stationed on the bridge while Kaio looked on from behind. It was finally time, and Matsu hacked all the satellites. They started running like hell, and Kaio initiated the twins, granting them the power to rain down hell. Kusano came around and used her vines to incapacitate the soldiers. They were running like crazy and almost made it past the bridge, as Uzum looked on from above. Kazahana had a strange feeling while Hiroto knew exactly what was happening. He knew all along but decided to remain silent, since all this was a game to him. Matsu realized that the MB were closing in and warned them to get out of there ASAP. Hiroto sure caught them off guard. Matsu was looking for an escape route, while the twins kept on destroying the army tanks. Minato decided to head back for Kusano, since she was all alone and vulnerable. Matsu begged him not to do it, but told them to go ahead since she was ready to save Kusano on her own. She unleashed her bike and was ready to head into battle. Tsu was speechless, while Kaio was growing worried for the rest. Luckily, he had the twins to save his back. Musubi and Minato decided to go on ahead while the army surrounded Kusano. Just then, Matsu swooped in and used a missile launcher to distract them. Alongside Kusano, they used their vines to wreak havoc throughout the city. The city was in panic, and the MBI were on the defensive. Minato and the rest were almost there when the disciplined squad came to thwart their progress. Sekirei hired by the MB to eliminate anomalies. Musubi didn't care and launched into battle. This should be interesting. Musubi was ready to throw hands, but was getting whooped left and right. Tsu looked on like the renegade she was, and Mia scolded her intentions. Her disloyalty was unfathomable, to be honest. Elsewhere, Musubi was ready for round 2 and flung one of the Sekirei to the air. The red Sekirei was livid and unleashed a deadly blast at them. Whoa, that was close. Musubi wasn't going to let down, and Kuno watched on in horror as Minato was about to fall. Musubi was clearly outmatched against the red Sekirei and fell to her demise. I didn't expect her to lose this badly, especially after Maya trained her. Minato looked on as his Sekirei was fully defeated right in front of him. Tsu, on the other hand, had a change in heart. Alas, it was too late, since Musubi was down and her Sekirei mark disappeared. Hold up, does that mean she's dead? Oh no, anyone but Musubi. She was my favorite character in the entire franchise. Haruka took a major hit and started seeing his life flash before his very own eyes. Kuno was growing desperate as there was nothing she could do. Just then, she leaned in for a kiss and unlocked her inner powers. She used her melody to rob the Sekirei of their strength. Was it the sin of sloth? Who knew she was this powerful? Her singing suddenly stopped since she was unable to control her abilities. Sorta like Homura and how her body burned up. Even so, she was simply delaying the inevitable. Luckily, it bought time for Tsu to show up and save them. I told you Tsu was a little too late. They started tag-teaming her, but Tsu wasn't fazed. Kazahana and Homura stood back and saw Tsu go all out against the two lethal Sekirei. Her regret was pointless, but at least her battle instincts were on point. Minato kept on crying while Tsu was busy dealing with the Edward Scissorhands Sekirei and fell to his traps. Yukari and Shina made their way through while Matsu and Kusano were trying to get in touch. Minato was almost about to die until he decided to fight back. Matsu decided to help them out, however. Shina ended up running into the villain of the hour, Hayata. They surrounded them and threatened Yukari to leave immediately. Meanwhile, Minato refused to run away and asked Tsu to believe in him. Turns out his ambitions revived Musubi's Sekirei mark. Just then, Shina locked lips with Yukari and emerged on the spot. His power was on a whole other level and had everyone running for dear life. Meanwhile, Musubi resurrected from the dead, even finer and perkier than before. They tried attacking her, but were blasted away by her Kamehameha attack. Tsu got up and met up with Matsu and Kusano. When did Musubi become this powerful? Hold up, she was number 8. Who knew? No wonder she was crazy strong. Why was she hiding her strength till now? Her beauty, however, was mind-boggling. Minato, you lucky dog, bathe in the warmth of her bosoms. You earned it, my friend. Soon after, the Black Sekirei showed up and challenged Musubi to a fight. This time around, Musubi was a completely different monster and forced her to succumb. Minato went in for a hug but was attacked by the satellites since their time was up. Luckily, they all made it out of there alive and bid Haruka and Kuno farewell. Now that's a happy ever after if I've ever seen one. A touching end to a beautiful story. That's all for this episode of Sekirei. Hope you enjoyed our recap, and as always, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to stay updated on future content. If you'd like to see more amazing content, please leave a like and subscribe to stay updated.